Welcome to the lands of science fiction stories. I wish you a pleasant listening experience.
The Galactic Confederation's annual war games were the pinnacle of interstellar strategy. The amphitheater was a sprawling arena filled with beings from across the cosmos, each bearing their own cultural nuances and advanced weaponry. Amidst the colorful alien audience, one section stood out: humanity's contingent. They were small in number, out of place, and noticeably calm for a species from a death world. Commander Vex Solari, humanity's lead strategist, observed the proceedings with a cool, calculating gaze. A tall, imposing figure with dark hair and piercing blue eyes, he was the definition of human confidence. His demeanor contrasted sharply with the surrounding alien leaders, who either mocked or dismissed the human presence. Earth's participation is mandatory under the Inclusion Act of 2387, declared Admiral Thrixon, the host of the event. His multiple, luminescent eyes scanned the crowd as he struggled to keep his disdain in check. However, I must remind everyone that humanity's previous performances have been underwhelming. Murmurs of laughter rippled through the crowd as alien commanders snickered. Vex remained unbothered. If there was one thing humanity excelled at, it was being underestimated. As the massive holodisplay activated, showing a galactic map filled with simulated war zones, Vex, second-in-command, Lieutenant Kenavark, leaned in. "Ready, sir?" Vex smirked. "Let's show them what Earth's finest can really do." The simulation commenced with the flick of a switch. Alien teams sprang into action, their elaborate control panels lighting up with the furious activity of tentacles, claws, and appendages pressing buttons. However, at the human station, Vex and his team remained oddly relaxed. Vex scanned the holograms with an almost predatory intensity, fingers dancing lightly over a simple control pad. Alien eyes and various other sensory organs turned to watch, curiosity growing as the humans didn't panic, didn't rush. They seemed bored. One alien commander sneered. "Do the humans even know they're in a war simulation?" Vex's eyes gleamed. "Oh, we know." The first galactic year passed, and the human forces had barely moved. The alien commanders had spread their territories, capturing resource-rich planets and setting up defensive grids. Yet, by the second year, the alien races began noticing a shift. Human forces, previously dormant, started striking in seemingly random locations. The Valark Empire's territory, once the size of a solar system, shrunk rapidly. Each time they set up defensive lines, human forces were already several steps ahead, hitting key supply routes and communication hubs. The Andraxian fleet, known for its impenetrable armadas, found itself isolated, its reinforcements intercepted by surgical human strikes. Admiral Thrixon watched in disbelief. "How are they moving so quickly? Our simulations show their ships shouldn't have this speed." Vex's voice cut through the chatter. "You assumed our technology was outdated. You were wrong." The crowd gasped as, within the next simulated year, human-controlled space expanded exponentially. Planets surrendered before battles even began, convinced by the friendly, human diplomats who preceded the fleets. Vex grinned, satisfied. The key to victory isn't just might. It's the art of manipulation. As alien commanders scrambled to make sense of their tactical losses, Vex's team continued their methodical advance. Their tactics were ruthless, swift invasions, decisive planetary sieges, and, most shockingly, alliances formed through deceptive promises and manipulation. The aliens were unprepared for such psychological warfare. By the fourth simulated year, humanity had secured a quarter of the galaxy. The alien commanders, struggling to hold their territories, turned desperate. Admiral Thrixon, his pride and patience tested, stormed over to the human station. "What is the meaning of this?" he demanded, his luminescent eyes blazing. "You've broken every rule of traditional warfare." Vex leaned back, unfazed. "With all due respect, Admiral, there are no rules in war, only survival. You think too traditionally. We adapt." Admiral Thrixon's scales flushed a deep shade of purple, a clear sign of anger. "This is an outrage. Galactic warfare has a code of honor, a tradition that spans millennia." Vex's grin was unyielding. Honor doesn't win wars. Strategy does. The simulation continued, and alien alliances crumbled under humanity's relentless assault. Commanders bickered, blaming each other as their territories fell one by one. The Galactic Confederation's grand plan was in shambles. As the 10th simulated year approached, Vex's team dominated over half the galaxy. The amphitheater buzzed with a mix of disbelief and reluctant admiration. Alien observers, who had initially mocked the humans, now watched in stunned silence. The human contingent, once dismissed as inexperienced, had decimated every alien strategy, turning the war games into an Earth-centric triumph. Vex stood, addressing the amphitheater. "Gentlemen, ladies, and various forms of sentience, thank you for the challenge. We've enjoyed ourselves thoroughly. Perhaps next time, you'll consider including some real competition." The audience erupted, some in outrage, others in reluctant applause. Alien leaders exchanged looks of disbelief. For the first time, they had witnessed the full might of a Deathworld's strategic brilliance. Admiral Thrixon's eyes dimmed, his posture slumped in defeat. This simulation, it was a mockery. Vex shrugged, a grin still playing on his lips. Mockery? Just a demonstration. And you know, Admiral, humanity is only getting started. As the amphitheater echoed with the buzz of alien debate, humanity had once again proven that underestimating them was the gravest mistake anyone could make. The era of conventional galactic warfare was over. The age of humanity had just begun. The amphitheater still buzzed with activity, the shock of humanity's swift domination reverberating through the crowd. Alien commanders argued, their voices a cacophony of frustration, while the holodisplays reset to prepare for the next simulation. Vex Solari, his team victorious, watched with a mixture of satisfaction and calculated indifference. Lieutenant Kenna Vark leaned closer, her voice a whisper only Vex could hear. "They're going to try to change the rules. They can't handle the fact that we outmaneuvered them." Vex smirked, his eyes never leaving the frantic alien commanders. "Let them. The more they scramble, the more they reveal their weaknesses." As the crowd's agitation reached its peak, Admiral Thrixon took the stage once again. His scales, which had shifted to a deep, conflicted shade, shimmered under the harsh lights. His voice echoed, amplified by the amphitheater's acoustic systems. "Esteemed delegates, it is clear that our simulation's parameters did not account for the unique approach of our human participants. Therefore, we propose a new set of challenges, ones that focus on diplomacy, ethics, and the defense of civilizations rather than pure conquest." A ripple of approval ran through the audience, especially among the alien races whose territories had suffered the most under humanity's relentless advance. Vex watched, his expression unreadable, as Thrixon outlined the details. This time, no unchecked aggression, no deceptive alliances. Victory will be based on uniting star systems through peaceful means. Kenna's eyes narrowed. "They're stacking the deck against us." Vex nodded, his expression shifting into one of fierce determination. "They think they're changing the game, but they're just giving us new tools." The holodisplay flickered to life again, this time showing a vast map filled with neutral and hostile factions, each represented by a glowing symbol. As the simulation began, alien teams scrambled to form alliances, extending diplomatic ties and trading valuable resources. The humans, however, didn't move immediately. Vex's fingers danced over the console, bringing up the detailed profiles of key alien leaders. "Every empire has its price," he murmured, a predatory glint in his eyes. "It's time we find out what that is." As the other teams continued to expand diplomatically, the humans focused on intelligence gathering. They hacked into communications networks, listening to secret negotiations and intercepting sensitive data. Vex's team began systematically planting misinformation, turning allies into enemies and making rival factions suspicious of one another. In the third simulated year, chaos erupted. The Valark Empire, having secured several alliances, suddenly found itself betrayed by its closest partners. The Andraxian fleet, poised for a diplomatic mission, was ambushed by former allies, convinced that they were planning an invasion. Alien leaders watched in horror as their painstakingly crafted alliances disintegrated in a flurry of mistrust and deception. Vex's lips curled into a cold smile. Peace through strength. That's the Earth way. Meanwhile, the alien teams attempted to patch their fractured alliances, but the damage was done. Vex's intelligence operations had seeded enough doubt to ensure their plans unraveled. One by one, the major powers fell into disarray, their territories destabilized by rebellions and economic sabotage. Admiral Thrixon, monitoring the progress from the command station, was visibly shaken. "This isn't diplomacy. This is manipulation of the highest order," he shouted, his voice echoing across the amphitheater. Vex, hearing the outburst, stood and faced the audience. "Manipulation? No, Admiral. It's strategy. You assume diplomacy is about honesty and transparency. We see it as another battlefield, one where influence is the weapon." The crowd's reaction was mixed. Some alien commanders glared, their faces contorted in anger. Others exchanged wary glances, whispering among themselves. A few, particularly those from war-torn worlds, nodded in grudging respect. They knew the price of survival was often paid with cunning and ruthlessness. Just as the simulation approached its 5th year, Vex's plan came to fruition. The human forces, now posing as mediators, offered their protection to the fractured star systems. Many accepted, desperate for stability. The few who resisted found themselves isolated, their supply lines mysteriously cut off or their leaders exposed in scandals that Vex operatives had engineered. By the 7th year, humanity's influence extended to nearly half of the simulated galaxy. The alien factions, weakened and divided, struggled to rebuild their alliances, but it was too late. The damage was done. Vex's team, having secured key resources and alliances through manipulation, now wielded the economic and military power needed to dictate terms. The amphitheater fell into silence. Admiral Thrixon's eyes dimmed as he faced the reality of what was unfolding. "This is a disgrace," he muttered, his voice a low hiss. "You've corrupted the spirit of these simulations." Vex remained calm, his gaze unwavering. "War isn't just fought with weapons, Admiral. It's fought with ideas, influence, and yes, sometimes deception. You underestimated us because you believed in tradition over adaptation." Admiral Thrixon's expression hardened. "If this were a real war, your tactics would be unsustainable. There are consequences for such manipulation." Vex's smile was a wolfish grin. "We're not afraid of consequences, Admiral. That's what sets us apart. Humanity thrives under pressure. We adapt, we endure, and we survive." As the simulation neared its 10th year, the final evaluation flashed on the screen. Humanity had secured over 60% of the galaxy's star systems, with the remaining factions either neutralized or absorbed through their diplomatic machinations. The other alien teams watched in stunned silence as the verdict was displayed: humanity, victory. Admiral Thrixon's scales darkened, his posture slumping in defeat. "You may have won this simulation, but remember, humans, there are real consequences beyond these walls." Vex's eyes blazed. "We know, Admiral. And we're ready for them." As the amphitheater emptied, alien commanders whispered among themselves, some eyeing the humans with newfound fear and others with a flicker of grudging respect. In the quiet that followed, Lieutenant Vark approached Vex, her expression serious. "What's next?" Vex turned, his expression contemplative. "Next, we prepare for the real challenge. The galaxy won't forget this, and they won't take it lightly." Kenna smirked. "But we wouldn't want it any other way." As the human team exited the amphitheater, their victory solidified. One truth became clear: humanity's adaptability, cunning, and ruthlessness would reshape the galaxy. The age of alien dominance was waning, and the Deathworlders were rising, ready to stake their claim. The amphitheater was empty, the holograms deactivated, and the lights dimmed to a low glow. Only a few lingering whispers echoed through the corridors as alien diplomats and commanders retreated to their ships, each contemplating humanity's unexpected and overwhelming victory. Vex Solari stood at the edge of the stage, watching them go. The thrill of victory was tempered by the heavy weight of what he knew would come next. Lieutenant Kenna Vark joined him, her eyes scanning the emptying seats. "We've made enemies today, Vex. More than we can count." Vex's expression remained stoic. Enemies were inevitable. Our victory, however, has shown the galaxy what humanity is capable of. We've proven our strength, but now we must be prepared for the response. Just as Vex turned to leave, a transmission alert flashed on his wrist communicator. It was a priority message from Earth Command. Vex tapped the device, and the familiar face of General Rowe appeared, his features severe, as always. "Commander Solari," the general began, his tone devoid of any congratulations. "We've received reports of unrest among the alien factions following your performance. It seems that several of them are pushing for a formal inquiry into Earth's tactics, calling it a violation of galactic ethics." Kenna rolled her eyes. "Galactic ethics? When has anyone ever played by the rules?" The general's gaze shifted to her briefly before focusing back on Vex. "Their protests have weight. Some of the older, more powerful empires are joining the call, and there are rumors that a coalition is forming, one designed to contain humanity's influence." Vex's eyes narrowed. "They want to punish us for winning." "Exactly," General Rowe confirmed. "Your tactics, while effective, have threatened the established balance of power. We're no longer just another species, we're a potential threat. The Galactic Confederation's Council is convening to discuss our future participation, and they may decide to ban us entirely." Vex clenched his fists. "If they try to exclude us, they'll only confirm their fear of us. That could justify more aggressive measures." Kenna glanced at Vex, her eyes full of concern. "What's the plan, sir?" Vex paused, contemplating their options. "We can't show weakness. If we back down now, they'll see it as an admission of guilt. We need to double down. If they want a coalition against us, then we must be ready for war." General Rowe's expression remained grim. "Prepare your team for immediate deployment. We're mobilizing our fleets and activating our defense grids. If they want to turn this into a real conflict, we'll be ready." As the transmission ended, Vex turned to Kenna, his resolve hardened. "It's time. Gather the team. We're leaving." Hours later, Vex and his team assembled in Earth's Tactical Command Center aboard the battleship Relentless Dawn, orbiting the Galactic Confederation's central hub. The atmosphere was tense, a mix of adrenaline and anticipation. Massive holodisplays showed fleets mobilizing, and communication channels buzzed with strategic updates. The door slid open, and Admiral Thrixon entered, flanked by his own security detail. Vex's eyes met the Admiral's as the alien leader approached, his scales shimmering with agitation. "Commander Solari," Thrixon began, his tone cold. "I've come to offer you one last chance. Humanity's actions have destabilized the balance of power. If you agree to publicly apologize and withdraw from further simulations, the Council might be lenient." Vex's expression remained unreadable. "And if we refuse?" Thrixon's eyes dimmed, a shadow of regret passing over his features. "Then the coalition will vote to enforce sanctions. Your fleets will be restricted, and Earth's influence will be isolated." Kenna stepped forward, her voice sharp. "You mean they'll attempt to block us from expanding further?" Threezan sighed. "If it comes to that, the coalition is prepared to defend its interests, militarily if necessary." Vex's gaze remained locked on Thrixon. "You came here, knowing we wouldn't surrender, didn't you?" The Admiral's eyes softened. "I did. But I had to try. I know the power humanity holds, and I've seen what you're capable of. If this escalates, the consequences will be catastrophic." For a moment, the room was silent, tension hanging heavy in the air. Vex finally spoke, his voice low but resolute. "We will not bow to threats, Admiral. We won because we adapted and overcame. The galaxy must adapt to us now." Thrixon's shoulders slumped as he turned to leave. "I hoped for a different outcome, Commander. But I fear the galaxy will burn for it." The war began with a flash. Coalition fleets, formed from the most powerful species in the Confederation, moved to blockade human territories. Earth's response was swift. Vex and his team, now leading the first wave of human fleets, unleashed the full might of humanity's advanced technology. Space battles erupted, each more intense than the last. Planets fell, alliances crumbled, and what had begun as a simple wargame simulation had now turned into an all-out galactic conflict. Vex and his team, hardened by years of training, pushed forward, using the same ruthless tactics that had won them the simulations. But the war had its price. Alien empires that once cooperated now united against the humans, and casualties mounted on both sides. Each victory felt hollow as the cost of maintaining their dominance grew. In one final battle over the contested planet of Zarin Prime, Vex's fleet faced the combined might of the Coalition. The odds were stacked against them. Vex's strategies, once brilliant and unpredictable, faced enemies who had adapted. The galaxy, it seemed, was learning from humanity. As Vex watched the battle unfold on the holo display, he knew that this was the endgame. Kenna, redirect all power to the forward shields and prepare the Omega Protocol. Kenna hesitated, her eyes wide. Vex, that's a last resort. If we activate it, we'll lose half our fleet in the process. Vex's gaze hardened. If we don't, they'll take Zarin Prime and cut off our supply lines. We'll be surrounded. With a reluctant nod, Kenna initiated the protocol. The human fleet surged forward, its ships glowing with an intense energy. The Coalition forces, caught off guard, tried to regroup, but it was too late. The Omega Protocol unleashed a devastating energy wave, annihilating half of the Coalition's armada in an instant. But the victory was bittersweet. The wave also tore through the human fleet, leaving them weakened and vulnerable. As the dust settled, the battlefield was littered with wreckage, alien and human alike. Vex stared at the ruins, the weight of his choices heavy on his shoulders. We may have won this battle, but the war has only begun. Kenna, exhausted but resolute, placed a hand on his shoulder. What now, Commander? Vex's eyes, filled with a mix of determination and regret, met hers. Now we rebuild. And we prepare for the next fight. In the days that followed, the galaxy struggled to comprehend the cost of the war. Many alien factions, recognizing humanity's unyielding strength, reluctantly accepted Earth's dominance. Others retreated, licking their wounds and plotting revenge. The galaxy would never be the same again. Humanity's rise, marked by both brilliance and brutality, had reshaped the balance of power. And as Vex stood on the command deck of the Relentless Dawn, he knew that their victory had only opened the door to new challenges. Admiral Solari, Kenna called from the console. We're receiving communications from the Council. They want to negotiate terms. Vex smirked, his gaze focused on the vast starscape before him. Tell them we're listening. But this time, they'll play by our rules. As the transmission was sent, the humans, once underestimated, now stood as the galaxy's dominant force. And for better or worse, the age of Earth had begun. The galaxy, whether it liked it or not, would have to adapt or perish.